Hello and welcome back to another episode of You Want to Do What with Dan and Julie. Today we've got Sienna on, who is a full-time illustrator. Hi Sienna.
Hello,
How are we?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
All good. Do you want to tell everyone about what you do, Sienna?
Yes, so I co-own a personalised illustration business called Sketch by Sienna with my sister. And what we do is we personalise, we create you, for example, as a character, and we put you onto a card, like a greeting card or an A4 watercolour paper where most people put inside a frame. And it's literally just you as a cartoon, really. And they're just so personalised. And so that's basically what we do.
That's very cool. So how did you get into illustrating?
Well, I've always been into art ever since I was little. I've loved art in school. I was always doing art. And then I went on to, I didn't know, I've never known what I wanted to do. So I went to Ravensbourne University. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's near the open. So
Yeah.
I did a foundation year. So to get into university doing art, a lot of the time you have to do a foundation year to be able to go on to the best unis for art. So that's what I did. So I went to Ravensbourne and did graphic design for 1 year. And I just really didn't like it at all. And I still didn't know what I wanted to do. And everyone in my year at the time, they were all going on to an actual degree after that. And I was the only person that didn't. So I've always done creative things, and my mum, she would say to me, "Oh, Sienna, can you make me a card for my friend?" Like if she, for example, if she was delayed and didn't give them a card, for example, I'd be the one, I'd draw them or do anything really, like cut up another greeting card and stick it all together. So my mum said, "Why don't you start up an Instagram page?" And at the time, I was so young, I was like, "No, I don't want to do that. It's so embarrassing." Like to me, I thought like older people did stuff like that, like arts and crafts. And so my mum and sister, who I actually work for my sister now, they both pushed me to do an Instagram page. So that's what I did. I started as Cards by Sienna at the time, and friends and family started to buy cards. And looking back, they were shockingly bad, the design. Honestly, I don't know how anyone bought them. And it's just grown from there because obviously Instagram is such a huge platform. We just, yeah, well, at the time I was just selling via Instagram, and that's how it started.
So where did the actual sort of love for art and you mentioned you study sort of graphic design, where did that come from?
Oh, to be honest, I actually don't know because no one in my family are artistic at all. No one. They all went into corporate jobs. I was the only one. Ever since I was little, I just loved art, and I don't really know. I've just always loved colours and loved designing. So I think maybe it just occupied me because I've always loved it. I don't know where it's come from because it's definitely not my parents.
How come you decided? Obviously, you started off making some cards and that. How come you sort of decided to do a very, very, very personalized content now and do it everything unique for a person coming towards you?
So I started doing cards, and like I've got cards actually sitting on my side now. And I started when I was 10 years old, literally getting old Christmas cards and cutting them up. And then when I started actually doing personalised cards, I was looking online and getting ideas, but no one really does even now, no one really does what we do. So loads of people saying to me, "You love designing cards, you need to make a niche out of this." So then I just started drawing people, and then I did like buttons. I stuck buttons as people's heads, and it just adapted to how I am now and this is what we do. But obviously I'm saying I because I started by myself, and obviously now I have my sister, so it is we. But that's how I started, by literally it was just adapting, and it's come so far from the first cards which I posted on my Instagram, which are so horrible. I really don't like them. But obviously at the time I thought they were really good.
Yeah, so you mentioned you went off to university and you studied art at school. What were you thinking of doing when you went to study art? Did you have ideas of career in mind, or you just did it because you liked it?
Well, I've always loved art, and I thought to go to actual university, because obviously this was just a foundation year. I thought, oh, if I were to go to university, I would actually go into the business side of things. So I'd do like business marketing or business management. I would never have gone into actual art as a degree. And because I thought for me, it would be a waste of time because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And obviously if you've got a business degree or something like that, I think you're so much more open to what career you wanted to go down. Obviously, I didn't know at the time what I wanted to do. So yeah, that was basically I just didn't really know what I wanted to do. And even now, if you were to ask me, if you don't do cards, where would you be? And I honestly, I have no idea. I'd probably say maybe an advertisement, probably, but I wouldn't know. I just never really liked anything. I just knew I wanted to work for myself, be my own boss. And yeah, so I'm so lucky that my hobby actually turned into a full-time job.
So you obviously you did your foundation degree. Didn't at what sort of point did you sort of take the leap from doing this as a hobby and putting some advertisement up on Instagram? After your foundation degree, did you just go straight in for it and just make this your full-time career and gave it everything?
No, so actually, I started the Instagram page whilst I was in the middle of the foundation year, and I didn't have many followers and I didn't get many orders at all. And I just thought, you know what, I still don't know what I'm going to do. I'll probably just take a gap year and figure it out. Like, I just hoped that I'd figure it out in the end. And then I just carried on. I didn't get a job. After my foundation year, I just started doing more. I got more orders, and Instagram just blew up really. So it literally developed into a full-time job just from a hobby. But it was just lucky, I would say. It was just lucky that I didn't have the pressure of needing to get a job straight away. So that's literally, it was sort of a gap year that it became a full-time job for me.
I think you're a really good example. And also we had Baked by Stefan last week, and you're both really good examples of somebody who's had a hobby and started sort of advertising on Instagram and growing a business from it. Yeah. And it's important, I think, for everyone that's thinking about what they want to do or what career they want to do, you can start these things on the side and they can grow into businesses. Like, we have social media, we have the internet. We're such a lucky generation that you can do these things, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's huge. And I don't know if you've got a TikTok account, but even on TikTok, there's so many, I think they call it TikTok businesses or TikTok small businesses. And it's these small businesses that make all sorts of things, but there's so many young people. I think obviously with COVID at the moment, I think a lot of people are probably furloughed or just a bit bored at home. So they're creating, and it's such a huge platform, Instagram, because also it's free, which is obviously the main thing. And as a generation, we're buying a lot more online. So obviously benefits us, and so I think it's so great that people are they're building businesses, and even if it is a hobby or like a little side hustle, I think it's great.
So you obviously said that you started out by yourself and have now brought your sister on. What was sort of the idea around that, and how's it worked?
So because I grew on my own so much, and obviously I was doing everything from posting on social media to talking to customers to doing at the time when I first started, I was hand drawing and hand painting every single card or A4 watercolour paper. And I was painting with watercolour, and it was so time consuming. Even now it's really time consuming, but I've adapted. I made the leap at the time. Obviously I started hand drawing and hand painting. And then I thought, you know what, I should get an iPad and do this digitally so I can have the templates already saved, and then I could literally do whatever I want on top of it, and it would be so much quicker. So I bought myself an iPad and I started doing digital. And obviously from them, because it's quicker, although it's still time consuming, it was a lot quicker than hand painting so much, because also there's a lot of backwards and forwards with customers. And if there's something wrong, it's so much easier to erase digitally than it is obviously if I've actually painted on actual paper. So that's so great for me. And so I just got so big, for myself, not big in general, but for myself, it was so big for me that I couldn't physically take on more orders, and I was so stressed, and I was working 90-hour weeks, and my mum was like, Sienna, you can't keep doing this. But obviously I didn't want to let people down, and I just wanted to see where it could go. So I think everything happens for a reason. And my sister, she worked in HR at ASOS, and she got made redundant, and obviously this isn't good for her, but it was good for me. So she started helping me out, and she was doing like answering messages to the customers and started to do this admin. And I said to her, I was like, Ellie, and this is when lockdown started as well, the first lockdown. And I said, Ellie, can you not just work with me? Let's see how it goes. Work with me, because if you're doing 50% of the work and doing all the admin side of things, I can then take on the orders which I have to turn down. So that's how it started, and we were just winging it really. And I said, if you want to get obviously a full-time job, if it doesn't work out, that's absolutely fine. But there wasn't many jobs out there at the moment. So obviously with all the cutbacks of COVID, it was really difficult. So it worked out obviously amazing for both of us, because even now it's too much for us both now, because there's just too many orders and we can't physically fulfill them at the moment. So we are looking, and we've grown so much that we're looking for our next step, what we could do.
Wow. I mean, how cool is that you started something and now you're able to bring your sister on board? What's it like working with each other though? Is there a few arguments every now and again?
Yes, obviously she's my sister. We're best friends. We get on so well, and I trust her 100%. And we are literally, both of us are 50-50. Everything's completely even. And I think it's because we trust each other so much that it really works so well.
Mm. So what is an average day like for you? You know, you get orders in, do you jump on the iPad straight away, or what are you doing?
Yeah. So obviously there's two of us. So I do all the designing, the illustrations and stuff like that, whereas Ellie does all the operations and the marketing side of things. So Ellie would, first of all, she would answer messages from customers, and then she enters it onto our system, and then I'd go in. Obviously we work from due date because everything's made to order. Some people order literally months in advance, whereas some people are like, oh, I need a card for next week. So we work from due date, and we tell the customers at the rough time that they'll get their design. And I'd go into the Instagram chat, and we have a very easy template which I can see easily, because when I was doing it myself, I was asking separate questions, and it just got so confusing for me to look back at the chat, because the customers would change their mind and it would just be so confusing. So now it's so easy. So what I'll do, I'll draw whatever the customer's after, and then I'll send it to them for proof, because I never send anything to print unless it's proof, because obviously it can't always be correct. They might say, oh, can you change the hair colour slightly, or can you change the dress, or whatever, because I can recreate outfits as well. So if a customer sent me a photo of their outfit, I can draw it from the photo literally to make it look like them. So then I would send it to Ellie, who then prints it, and she hand glitters it, and then she packages, and she literally does all the operation side of things as well. So it works really well for both of us.
I love stuff like this because I am awful at art in any shape or form, and I think people that do it amaze me. But how was the transition from painting to digital for you in the illustration world? Like, was that a difficult transition?
It wasn't a difficult transition, but it was a big step for me, because I thought, oh no, my niche is hand painting, everything's hand done. So I thought, oh no, am I going to lose customers because I'm literally going digital? And a lot of trying to explain to someone, saying the designs are exactly how they would be painted, because I think when you say, oh, it's digital, I think people think it's a lot more general and it won't be as personalised, that everything's literally done the exact same, but just through an app. And so that was literally what I did, and it was a big step for me, because I just didn't know if it would work, and obviously it worked for the best, but at the time it was such a huge step for me.
Did you have to go on a course to learn how to do it on the iPad, or is it pretty easy to, once you pick it, if you're good at art, can you pick it up digitally?
I would say so. I would definitely say so. I don't know if you know, but there's an illustrator called Holly Nichols on Instagram, and she's how I really started, because I looked at her stuff and I was like, this is amazing. And she does not what I do, but she does illustration. She does hand drawing as well as on her iPad. So I'd say you have to have some sort of artistic background, but I think anyone could really do it if you put your mind to it and you enjoy it. I think, why not?
Definitely.
And what would be some of the personality traits that you see in yourself that you think have allowed you to be as successful as you are?
I would say you have to be passionate, 100%. The main thing you need to be is passionate about what you do, because there's nothing worse than being bored. Like, for example, Ellie, my sister, when she worked in HR, she hated it really, but she just did it because that's what she was comfortable with. And now working together, she loves it. And well, I hope she loves it. She tells me she does. You have to be passionate to be able to move stuff forward, and also motivated and dedicated, I'd say, because so much time and effort goes into every single piece of artwork I create. And I think if I wasn't dedicated or motivated, I think I'd just be so drained at the moment, because I work so many hours that I think the main thing you have to be is motivated, dedicated and passionate.
Yeah, you're the second person this week to have said the same thing. We had an endurance athlete on, and he was talking about running marathons, and unless you're doing something that you love, you do get drained, I think, where you're doing something, it's your own business, you've created it, you've grown it, it must be great fun.
And for me, it's still a hobby. I still don't see what I do as a job, although there's obviously some aspects where I'm like, oh, I can't be bothered to do that. It is such a hobby for me still. And I think that's what I hope never goes.
You've obviously been able to overcome or seen issues with your product and been able to overcome it, such as changing to digital, bringing in your sister and creating some templates and things like that. Yeah. How are you and your sister constantly looking to improve little things?
Yeah, absolutely. Because obviously at the moment we're so booked up constantly, and we're so lucky and so grateful for every single order. But it's got to the point where we're turning down more or less 40% of orders we get because we physically, obviously because I'm hand drawing every single one, I physically can't do more than I'm doing at the moment. So obviously we've thought about what our next steps could be. So that I can't say too much now because it's still in the groundwork, but we have got some really exciting things coming up. Hopefully in the next few months, we're just speaking to a few people, but yeah, the sky's the limit and we really want to grow this as far as we possibly could.
Sounds very exciting. What's been the biggest positive for you out of doing this, jumping into the world of e-commerce, starting your own little business and illustrating?
Yeah, well, I love working for myself. I think this is what I love. I love working for myself. And because obviously this is a hobby, like I said, I love creating, and I can literally create. If you wanted something, I can put your ideas and hopefully bring them to life. And I love seeing customer reactions because it's so rewarding to both of us, Ellie as well. And we were saying the other day that we wish that we had never seen what we do, as if we were like someone who's never seen anything and then looked, I don't know if that makes sense, and then looked at what we do, and I think I would be like, oh my god, this is so cool. But obviously because I do it every single day, it's just normal to me.
You've obviously got your own style that can be seen on your illustrations.
Yeah.
And I assume customers come to you because they like your style, but do you ever get issues sometimes where people say they want you to do something but it's sort of out of your ballpark?
Yeah, we get that quite often where people they'd say, can you recreate this image, and literally recreate. We have standard templates, whereas people sometimes send us a photograph and they're like, can you literally recreate that photograph? And months ago that I was recreating the photographs, but because it was so time consuming, I just said, I'm so sorry, I can't do it anymore because it just takes up too much time. So we do have sometimes issues like that, and some people send us other people's designs saying, can you do this? And obviously we're not going to copy them, so we just have to say no. And also we have, I don't know if you know, but in our illustrations most people don't actually notice until you actually look at them, but I do 2 dot eyes. I don't do any other facial expressions apart from the 2 dots as eyes. And quite a lot of people ask me, why don't you do like lips or a nose? And it's because I'm not very good at drawing facial features. I've never been good at drawing facial features. It's literally just been putting 2 dots, and I think they work really well. But we have had customers say, oh, can you draw a little smiley face? And I have done it for them, but I literally just like doing the little dots.
No, that's fair enough. Because I was looking at it, and your style is quite unique, and it is fairly similar from the designs. And I have heard of some artists in this sort of industry that do get some customers who are just like, oh, I want you to do this. Like, I don't do that. It's so weird.
We have a lot of fussy customers as well, where but that's another story.
So what would be some of the less favourable aspects or negatives that you've discovered of this industry working in it?
I think the art industry in general, I think it's such a saturated and competitive market to be in, especially with social media now. And I think a lot of people try and copy. We've had lots of people try and copy what we do, and it's just annoying because we work obviously so hard to get to where we are that I just don't really like when people copy us because it happens so often. But I would just say, because it's such a saturated market, you have to really be at the top of your game to even be recognised.
I guess that's the issue with social media. And speaking of social media, how did you go about starting to grow it? Because that's such a huge part of an e-commerce business, isn't it?
It's huge. So because obviously social media is it's a free platform, it's so great that we just rely on shout outs, or that we also do live sketching events where we go to events and we'd draw, or I still hand paint at weddings, for example, and I'd sit there painting people's outfits. So I get a lot of customers through that, and then they'd follow my Instagram account. But we rely mainly on shout outs and shares.
And what would be something that you've just never really expected in going into this that you have to deal with maybe every now and then or on a regular basis, and you just did not expect that to come along?
To be honest, I would never have expected to get to where I am right now. That's the main thing that I expect. To be honest, everything's quite fairly straightforward, and I don't actually deal with the operation side of things. It's Ellie, so if anyone, it'd be her expected difficulties, but everything I'd say is pretty straightforward for what we both do anyway.
And for someone thinking of starting an e-commerce business or starting something on the side, did you ever have a point in your head, sort of monetary wise, where you said, okay, if I get to this amount of money I'm making, I will do this full time? Or is that something that you think people should think about?
Well, it depends on the position you're in. Obviously, I was in quite a lucky position that I could have a gap year, and I didn't really think about money at the time because obviously I was so young. I'm still living at home, so I didn't have that strain on me having to obviously think about a mortgage or anything like that. I'd say if you're maybe don't quit your main job, I would say for a start, but still social media is free. And I know you have to buy obviously products and stuff, but I would definitely say if you like something, do it. And you get what you put in. We work so hard. Obviously, we get what we put in, which is obviously great. But for the amount of hours we put in, it's a lot. It is a lot. It's time consuming, and it does put a strain on both of us. But hopefully, one day, Sketch by Sienna will be huge.
So what is the actual plan for the future? You know, you don't have to give away too many details about things you were talking about earlier, but how do you plan to grow the business, I guess?
So at the moment, we're talking to people. So we just need a solution, first of all, because we're so busy at the moment. We just need a short-term solution, which hopefully can be a long-term. So I can actually tell you that. And we are hiring 2 people who are going to start in May. So that's the first thing we're going to do.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you. So hopefully that will be able, we could take on more orders. At the moment, I hate turning away orders. I really do, because first of all, customers are disappointed, and I hope that they use us again. And a lot of people, especially with cards, for example, most people are so last minute with cards. I don't know if you are. So they would come to us, I need a card for next week. And at the moment, we're a bit like, can we squeeze you in? So if we had someone helping us, then that's definitely possible.
And sort of social media wise, or once, the coronavirus goes away, have you got any plans to do more live sketching at weddings or events?
Absolutely. We have weddings booked up this summer, but last year we had no events at all because obviously Corona hit, and we were just starting out events. It wasn't a main thing we were doing. We only just started out, and we had so many events booked in, and obviously they all got cancelled or postponed. So this summer we have got events lined up. Hopefully, I really hope they go ahead, but who knows now? Everything keeps on getting delayed.
And any tips for anyone thinking about doing this or thinking about pursuing something in graphics or illustration? Did you do anything? Maybe can you do courses or just start sketching maybe?
Well, I would say you could do sketching. There's no limit when it comes to art. You can do whatever you want. Literally, I don't think there's a limit. I'd say just be confident and I don't think you should care what people think. So when I started, I was like, no, I'm not starting an Instagram account. That's so embarrassing. So I would just say, don't care what people think. Do what you want, and just be confident, because our Instagram, I think there's 2 types of Instagrams for small businesses anyway. There's quite a formal business where it's literally just the products that the business is selling, or like us, we're quite engaging. It's more our background and our day-to-day life. So we do a lot. It's more Ellie that does that, and she does a lot of talking. I think she wants to be an influencer. There's a lot of talking on Instagram. But I just think be confident in what you're doing.
You obviously started this out as a hobby, and have able to turn it into a business. Brought your sister on, but before you had your sister on, how was it for you to learn the business side of things? Was that hard, or did it come not too bad? You were able to just grow it slowly and naturally?
It was quite hard for me because it wasn't efficient at all. The way I was working wasn't efficient at all. And now obviously my sister Ellie, she's joined. She's made everything, because she's had an outsider view, and she's made everything so much more efficient, because at the time, every single order I had a notebook and I'd write down the notes, and now we actually have a system where it prioritizes things, so it's so much easier. But I was just winging it at the time. I was just seeing where it goes and just very laid back about everything, but now we have a lot more structure.
If you went back to your previous self to be able to give a little bit of structure to when you started out, what would be maybe 3 tips that you would advise yourself on?
3 tips. I'd definitely say to take payment before you do the design, because I used to take payment at the end and obviously people don't pay, or I'd send the card and they still wouldn't pay. So I definitely take payment before. That is one big lesson. The second lesson I'd say is I don't actually know what the second lesson is. I'd just say the payment is the main thing, and change the notebook into an actual system, make it more digital, because I was literally living in the dark ages at the time. So I'd say them 2 things mainly.
No, that's fair enough.
Yeah, and go digital as well, obviously, which I've done.
And would you still go into this industry knowing everything you know now?
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% would. At the time, I didn't know how much work would actually, I thought it was just drawing, but there's so much more. Obviously on Instagram, you see such a shiny view of everything and customers see the finished product, but behind the scenes, there's so much more that goes behind the scene that it's a lot, but I wouldn't change it for the world.
Well, it's been a real pleasure chatting to you, Sienna, and wish you all the best of luck with your cards. I think they're brilliant.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming on. Where can people find you on Instagram, find your cards, and everything about you?
On Sketched by Sienna on Instagram, that's our main platform, and we're always doing stories, and yeah, Sketched by Sienna.
Awesome. Thank you very
Brilliant.
much.
Thanks, Sienna.